Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I enjoy Bubba Buddy Myron.
Hey, folks. Myron here, coming to you from the Myron Performance Center in my basement. I'm not totally isolated, but I don't like to come out of my basement most times anyway. It's very comfortable down here. Tough week, folks.
Very tough week, man. Let's preface this whole show with one simple fact. Lots of things are going on, and it's a scary time, and there are a lot more pressing and more important things in this world than pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So what we hope to do is, through these stressful times, just give you maybe 1 hour to escape from some of all the crazy that's going on, and just, enjoy talking about pro wrestling. Kind of have some interaction here. You guys always, you can comment. If you're watching us live on Facebook, you can comment right in the sections down, in the comment section. And of course, at Tapped Out Pod, we always encourage feedback on the social media at Tapped Out Pod. Email us, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. We're just kind of, like I said, we just want to be a good place to escape, talk about some pro wrestling, just to get through this, because this, in our lifetime, there's, I will never compare anything to 9/11. That was terrible. That was just, probably the worst, but
yeah,
this is probably some of the biggest, national scale, emergency that we've probably experienced in our lifetime.
Probably so. And I hope our country can come together the way it did during 9/11, where we can work together and we can get through this as a nation united. I'm not a wrestling expert, and I'm not an infectious disease expert. So I'm going on what the CDC has to say. I'm washing my hands, not manically. I'm not going out unless I have to. I mean, my work's not going to close, so I'll be there. Be reasonable. Be nice to people. Okay? And just do what you can. You got a family at home. You get your kids probably doing digital learning like ours are. Well, your kids are in college, so they're doing digital college learning. But just take care of yourself and your family. Enjoy some time getting to know people. And watch some professional wrestling. There's a lot of wrestling content out there to watch. Indie wrestling networks have Southern Honor, IWTV.
Yeah, let's plug them. IWTV. Yep. Jarrett Parsons. And hell, let's be fair. There's the Ring of Honor's got their own. Impact's got their own. WWE Network, of course. I mean, if you just want to watch a bunch of old school wrestling, you can do marathons. I mean, you could do a Mania marathon and just watch WrestleMania after WrestleMania. You could go on Ring of Honor, watch old stuff or whatever. It's,
YouTube.
Go ahead.
YouTube, full of wrestling. Find something you like and enjoy it. I don't get bored anymore if I have my phone or if I'm at my computer, because I can always find so much to do and watch. We can get through this, people. We're the greatest nation in the world. We can get through this. And let's all just try to be decent to each other.
Yeah. Well, man, let's go ahead and, like I said, this, not to be just so serious here. Let's just jump right into the stuff of, is pro wrestling. Now, obviously, the coronavirus does have some, fallout and when it comes to pro wrestling, right? So we wanted to just kind of start. We're not going to get in depth on this piece, but just the ramifications we're talking about here of Ring of Honor. They're done. There no live events through May 31st, that's 2 months. That's the first one to pull the trigger for that far.
That's tough.
Big time. Impact is only, from as of the moment of us recording, have only canceled through March, the March 28th, 29th show. Because, they do have the benefit of, they record when they were here in Atlanta, do tapings, they record for long term, for TV. But so they're going to be done through, March 28th and 29th, those two big events, Lockdown and March Breakdown, they're canceled. So you brought it up before when we were off air, NWA Crockett Cup's done. Yeah. They've canceled that show. And I don't mean this is a disrespect to those three promotions. The three smaller, promotions, MLW's kind of the same boat. Yeah. But now, however, the two giants, in pro wrestling, AEW and WWE, are going to continue on, at least bringing their TV product to us,
Yes.
on a regular basis. So,
and I'm excited to see tonight how NXT, because it'll be that we're recording Wednesday night, just to break kayfabe tonight, to see what NXT and to see what AEW does and see how their programs look. It's going to be different. You complain about nothing in wrestling ever changes. Well, hell, it's changing now. You got a different product.
Yeah, NXT, we kind of have a feel of pretty much what it's going to look like. We've seen, which we're going to discuss Raw and SmackDown in a little while. But so we kind of got a feel of what it's going to at least look like, maybe. AEW, we have no idea. I mean, are they going to do a no crowd? Like, are they going to do a small crowd?
And the Dork Order, the leader of the Dork Order will be revealed tonight.
Yeah. So finally we can discuss that one.
Yeah.
And get that one out of the way. Of course, WWE, they're still running no crowd in the Performance Center. And that's essentially here's the thing. We don't know how long we're going to have to look at this. I mean, forward to this, between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT coming from the Performance Center, which, again, we're going to discuss Raw, SmackDown. I've got some ideas I think are pretty cool, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, it's the coronavirus has rocked wrestling, and again, by the way, when we say this, we kind of want to reiterate again, I just feel like I have to. We get the real world, and we're trying to escape that for a second. So when we say
we're a wrestling podcast,
yeah, when they, it has rocked the wrestling world to its core on so many levels. So let's kind of get into that. Let's start obviously with the granddaddy of them all. You got to start at WrestleMania. That's the big, what was going to happen, and it started with just people just beating the WWE, like just beating them up about not canceling WrestleMania at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa.
The whole thing is, and this is my take on it, that show was always going to be canceled. They just weren't in a position to pull the plug and lose the insurance. That event is multi-million dollars. I don't know the exact number, but it had event insurance. Vince is a very good businessman. And I would assure you that somewhere along there was a clause in there. If you just say, we're not doing it without reason, you're not going to get that insurance, and you're going to lose all that ticket money and all that merch money and whatever else you make off a wrestling event like that. So,
yeah, I'll go through, a friend of the show who kind of knows a little bit about how this works, basically kind of walked me through, because I did reach out to him because I wanted to understand event insurance and what happened. And a lot of it was, yes, if Vince cancels, the event insurance doesn't kick in. Two, so when he finally did move it, because he needed the city of Tampa to pull the plug. That they were playing chicken there for a minute. Yeah. There was no chicken, folks. Vince needed the city to cancel, and clearly they weren't going to do that. So they moved to Orlando to the Performance Center. So that's where it's going to happen, and it very well may.
Is Raymond James a municipal facility that the city would make money off of?
Yeah, but it's privately owned. I don't think the city owns it. Lots of times the stadium has an owner.
Okay.
So, if I'm wrong, feel free to let me know. I full disclosure, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not up onto the semantics of if it's a privately, or public, whatever.
Yeah.
So they moved to Orlando to the Performance Center. So then everybody's like, oh my God, so they're really going to have this no crowd. Maybe. The way event insurance also works is you do have to at least prove that you attempted to have it somewhere else, like do something different to have the event. So here solves that part of the problem. They now have it. Now, if the city of Orlando comes in and says, you can't run WrestleMania, Vince has fulfilled all of the requirements necessary to cash in on his event insurance. Okay, as we very well like to point out, it's not about, when they said there's a lot to think, and this was not just, these are like, there's Eric Bischoff. I mean, we're talking people in power that are like, look, you got to understand, there's the right thing to do, which is clearly we all are fully aware the right thing to do is, for Vince is what to cancel the show. But B, he has the right thing to do. He has to do for shareholders.
Yep.
And sometimes those two don't exactly, It's not black and white. There's where that shades of gray thing comes in.
Whenever any green is involved, things get gray sometimes.
Exactly.
Vince is a businessman. I mean, we all like to think that he does this just to make me happy, but he does it to make shareholders like Nick happy, to make
Absolutely.
the board happy. It's a big deal. It's not just some guy. It's not some guy running in an auction barn in North Georgia. It's a business.
I mean, they're running Raymond James freaking Stadium. They run MetLife. They run Jerry World. I mean, on and on and on. And another little scoop that I had that was just curious. So apparently there were television stations, and actually, I shouldn't say stations, networks, interesting in airing WrestleMania for free.
Just starved for content.
Yeah.
Everything is shut down, folks. XFL, NBA, baseball spring training, NCAA March Madness. How huge is that? There will not be a national champion basketball team this year. It's going to be an asterisk in the books forever.
They could very well award the because they've released the final polls for the season. They could very well arguably could award Kansas the championship, which their coach did say he would accept. But he said he thinks they're the best team. They are ranked number one. However, he was fully aware there would be an asterisk by their name, down in the history book. So he said he accepted both of those, scenarios. So that yes, we would take it because we think we are the best and we're number one, and it has happened before. So it's been but anyway. So what we heard, and you're right, they need to have this content hole filled for people to watch, because it's millions of dollars that they've just lost.
Yeah. I have a kid I work with who is a huge sports fan. Every sport there is, he can quote stats off and all that. And he's like, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I'm at home. There's nothing to, like, you'll never finish Pornhub. Just relax.
Well, hey, look, DraftKings, etc., have found new ways to keep you occupied.
Yeah,
they're taking bets on like Survivor and like Top Chef and stuff like that. So, plenty of ways. But yeah, so Fox and ESPN, from my understanding, were in on looking at wanting WrestleMania, maybe just paying for it, and then airing it for free on their network. That would have been awesome.
That would have been awesome. That would have got so many, as what they call it, eyes on the product. It would have been great.
Yeah. But here's the but. Two things I want to mention on this thing. First and foremost, one, once there was they moved out of the stadium, I was told that was essentially the nail in the coffin. They didn't want it in the performance center. They wanted the fireworks. They wanted the huge entrances and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So they wanted the pomp and circumstance of WrestleMania. Without the stadium, it really is not a product that they really wanted on their television network.
Yeah, it's not. It's warehouse wrestling, as you gave me that term earlier. It's not anything that special.
Right.
And WrestleMania is supposed to be special. That's the hallmark of WrestleMania, is special.
Yeah. Now, here's something I wanted to ask you. I'm going to surprise you with this I did not tell you this ahead of time.
Ooh.
So my question is, when I first heard this rumor, my thing was if they could have pulled it off, and I know they pulled out of the stadium and it didn't happen. My ideal situation in my head was I thought this could be the perfect opportunity for Vince to learn, is it worth pulling Mania off of the network for what they will give him?
Well, when you had the bidders out there in the trial and error,
Well, the problem was I don't think the city of Tampa was going to let him run it even without a crowd. So I think that took it away. I thought it was the perfect opportunity to run it, because here's the thing. If he tried to do it in a normal world situation, he's going to catch a lot of flack for it.
Yeah.
Had he done this, no one could have blamed him, because it was an extreme situation, extreme circumstances. I'm going to sell it to, for $40 million, and I'm making numbers up, by the way, $40 million to Fox or whatever. And then they get to run it, and then run it like replays.
So the people get their sport.
So the people can fill some of that time up that they're having.
It's a whole day of television.
Yeah. So then the question became, you couldn't really get mad at him if he did it. And if it worked, guess what he can do next year? Pull Mania off and say, from going forward, because even, by the way, folks, we've talked about this vaguely a little bit. If Vince pulled Mania off of the network and, he said, look, it's going to be on ESPN or Fox or whatever, and they offered him that kind of money, what are you going to say? No, you're going to cancel your network for because of the one pay-per-view. You're still getting the other 11.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure they'd do something extra for you. There's got to be something extra in there for you.
Yeah.
And they'd probably run it on the network because there are legitimately people who don't have television who watch their wrestling online.
Yeah, he's not saying he's going to remove it from the network. He's just going to say that they can air it over there as well. But now the big story as of late that's picked up a lot of steam is June 7th, Madison Square Garden, that if this does, come down to the point where he has to completely cancel WrestleMania, postpone it, whatever you want to call it, that he wants to run June 7th in Madison Square Garden if by then we can get back a crowd into the building. So think about how he comes out of this if he could pull all this off. He gets, by the way, it is a bad situation. Obviously, he doesn't get to run WrestleMania in Raymond James, but he collects the insurance money, and then he gets to run June 7th in front of a crowd at the Garden. That would be pretty cool.
And it sells it to the networks too. Because apparently the conversations have been had. They know who does this kind of stuff.
It'd be cool. I mean, like I said, I know a lot of people are just complaining about the whole Mania thing. My thing with wrestling is the story, and I know there's a group of people that are like, hey, this could be a good off season. Shut them down for 2 months and just fire back up when everything can happen again. Maybe I get it. Based on what we saw, they're going to get a little bit of an off season. It seems like anyway, somewhat. Because if you have to slow this story down for 2 months, they're going to build. You know what I'm saying? It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
And I, for one, I'm thankful, and we're going to get in now. We'll jump into the Raw SmackDown piece that we were going to talk about. What our thoughts were of those shows in the empty arena or the empty performance center. And the reason I'm asking you that is because them being able to stretch things out in an empty, those emptier performance center shows, I have a suggestion for them. It can be done.
What's that?
One of the things that we liked about it, me personally, and I'm gonna say I'm not gonna speak for you. I love the fact that the Rumble was, they put the whole Royal Rumble men's match on Monday. And I was texting a buddy of ours, and I'm like, dude, they are literally going to air this whole match. Like with commercials, it's going to be like an hour and a half. They ate up half of Raw.
Yep.
With the Rumble match.
And they filled the rest with great promos. And they only had one match, and I didn't even notice. How epic was that?
Yeah. They gave you a very long match, was the thing.
Yeah. And the Edge promo was beautiful. Now, I watched SmackDown. I thought SmackDown was good. How cool is it that all the chairs match? When you see nobody in the chairs, you realize, have you ever been to a wrestling show where all the chairs match? Okay, that was what I noticed. But a SmackDown felt like an actor studio type thing. It felt like a play without an audience. And it was a good show. I enjoyed it. They seemed like they worked some of the bugs out with Raw. Without a crowd, Jerry the King Lawler is effing unbearable. I'm sorry. He can't make his own hype. But I had fun with Raw. I got that promo from Edge that was just on fire. AJ came back and cut an on fire promo. Taker in real life. You could really feel Taker in that empty arena. You got the women put on some great promos. Asuka on commentary was hilarious, in my opinion. And then we turn around and we get Stone Cold. You got every bit of Stone Cold, and he hammed it up, and it was a very satisfactory program. That's what I can say. How long will it last, though? How long will I want to see this?
I think right now in this world, um, it's not often that I say this. You're gonna have to give the pass to AEW. You're gonna have to give a pass to WWE, whomever, whatever. They're running in these no fan shows that they're having to put on. They're at least trying to entertain us. They're coming out there and they're performing. It's got to be awkward to be performing with no fan reaction to what they're used to. I think what we talked about off air a little bit is the matches. It seems a little awkward with no crowd. The promos not as much. It's almost like you can hear, like you said, you can feel and hear them better because the crowd's not there. And and then to be blunt, I was a little sarcastic and I made the comment of yes, and the fans can't hijack the show and chant and screw up promos and what
no Punk.
Yeah,
no CM Punk chance. That was awful.
What?
And folks, this is all the live wrestling you're going to get. Everybody but the two bigs are out. Your local shows are out. I mean, I don't know if you've got some old apartment wrestling DVDs stashed somewhere, but besides that, it's only live wrestling you're going to get. You better get over it.
Absolutely. I got two. Before we move on, I do want to ask you two things. I wanted to get your opinion on them.
Okay.
One, there was an article that I shared on Facebook about piping in noise. I know Jerry Lawler made the thing. I really don't have a problem with it. I think it would help.
I like to hear the ring. I like to. It's just so auditory and so like.
Oh, okay, maybe we're on two pages here. You're thinking constantly. I'm thinking like just in moments of where they want the reactions. Like when you have the high spot that boom and it hits, you get a cheer. Or when the good guy wins, they get a cheer. When the bad guy wins, you get the
you make people have that subconscious reaction to it.
You want to hear why? We talked about this again off air. You get the response you wanted. when you make a movie or you make a TV show, you remember they had the old when they recorded the sitcoms in front of the crowd and the crowd would laugh, and then of course, and because what happens if they didn't have that crowd laughter in there? Is it not funnier when the crowd reaction is there because you get that it's like, oh, this is funny?
Yeah,
it kind of emphasizes the point. I'm wondering how much of a persuasion it could be for when they, let's go to when we're talking about Mania, Drew McIntyre, if they end up having this in the Performance Center with no thing, when he wins, pipe that stuff up where it's loud and you get the reaction.
Loud music and some noise and
you get the vibe that you wanted and it makes it.
That makes sense. As long as they're not playing like a Three's Company laugh track, I'm okay. It just wouldn't meld right now.
Yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you, this one's kind of a weird one. The thing that really I loved about Raw, about this Rumble being there, is it really set the table. Let's do some math. 1.5 million people have the network.
Yeah.
2.5 million people watched Raw. So there's 1 million people that watched Raw that don't have the network.
That got the Edge appearance, that got Brock starting.
Mm-hmm.
You got the full effect of what they were trying to do with the Royal Rumble. And, well, if you're going to set up something, I think they're doing the best job they can getting things set up and get storylines over, folks. That's a good idea, Nick.
Now, here's where this gets crazy. On SmackDown, show me the John Cena Bray Wyatt match from 6 years ago.
Oh, the one they're
using it as the part of the story. Give them the match so they see it.
It's like having footnotes where if you're reading along, you can go back and see what that's about.
Use the tools you have. You have a network with every piece of content you've ever needed.
Have all the licenses too.
2 months. If you had to stretch this out for 2 months, I want full matches of everything that's ever happened between Randy Orton and Edge over the years. Them winning the tag belts. Show their history together. Show me anything of, like I said, just use what you need to build those stories with old matches. And then it's almost like a chronological like movie of how we got there versus you've had to have watched for 6 years and seen every little piece of this puzzle with the like with Bray Wyatt and John Cena.
For new fans.
Yeah.
It's like getting like you turn on a TV show that's been off for a season, and the first thing they do is show you what they did last season.
Exactly. Do that with WWE. Think about it. Bray Wyatt's crumble. Okay. Show his low point. Show the low points.
Just not the
Oh, we got to have it.
Match.
We want the bug. We want the bug match where they.
Oh,
so
God.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. You can take all this content. Now, by the way, the reason why there's at least some live content, it still has to be deemed the longest running episodic television show of ever. If it's all repeats, you can't do that. If it's all old content, you can't do that. Hence, you got one match and you got the promos.
And think about the stuff they did. They did they still did the Becky pulling up in the truck.
Yep.
They still did that outside support stuff that they do so well. They can still do that stuff. They can still get the things they do right. They're in a situation where the stuff they do right is going to be more impactful, but also the stuff they do wrong is going to be more impactful. How about this? Dude, I ain't watched Raw in months. I'll be honest. I tuned in for that stuff. I hadn't watched SmackDown in a while. I watched it. I'm going to be dying to see what's going on in AEW and NXT tonight, see how they play it. I mean, those NXT kids aren't as experienced as some of the people that were out there. Some of them are, and some of them wrestled indies long enough to know what small crowds are like, but impressed. Yeah. I'm impressed with what they've done. I hope they are able to capitalize on it and make it work and make it bearable, because it's going to be a long time without real live wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, let us know what you've thought of so far of, SmackDown, Raw, obviously NXT and AEW will be tonight. So let us know, share your thoughts, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, @tappedoutpod on all forms of social media. And of course, as always, guys, we tell you, if you're watching us on the Facebook video, comment in there. We appreciate it. Speaking of, you were talking a little bit about the indies. One of the topics I wanted to get into this way is part of the fallout of WrestleMania relocating away from Tampa, being canceled, whatever. There was a article written on Vice. Go to their website. I believe old Bixen's man wrote it.
Yeah, he can write a good article. I don't always agree, or I rarely agree with him on some things. And he's a weird little guy, but he can write a good article.
Very much so. He wrote an article about essentially saying how WrestleMania being moved, canceled, whatever you want to call it, from Tampa could just be catastrophic for the indies that were, because, we've all come to probably around 2012, 2013, the indies started kind of, just kind of all converging on the city that WrestleMania was on and running these shows, piggybacking off of the crowd that brings in. And by the way, not crapping on the indies that do it. I mean, it's a smart business move, and I've always been about business. Where
the fans are.
Right. If you're going to have, think about it, if you're going to have that many captive wrestling fans there for a week, why not?
That's why they bust in hookers for the Super Bowl. I mean, the audience is there.
Yeah. My question's always been, though, and this is, and I'm sure we're going to get some feedback on this, and I actually, me, I always encourage it. My question is for all that is the WWE hate, and everybody that loves, it's all about the WWE, or the indies and the alternatives and whatever. I think this situation that we have fallen upon, that it's come, that we're having to live through, is showing us the dependency that wrestling does have with the WWE.
Well, it's a dependency, but it's very symbiotic. The WWE gets a extended minor league system, basically, where talent goes and works and develops. And then they have a place to go with the WWE, and the WWE draws attention to wrestling since it's the name wrestling, basically. And it gives it gives eyes to their product. It's like that little bird and the rhinoceros. I can't remember what the little bird does for the rhinoceros, but the two of them work out something out where it's beneficial for both of them. Or that picture of that frog and that spider. I don't remember things, but I just remember pictures, and it's a symbiotic relationship where one provides a service for the other one. And I think they really need the WWE for indie wrestling to be successful. It's the big show.
Yeah, I mean, you got all these promotions that are coming down there, and the problem is think like WrestleCon, the collective, all of that stuff that comes down there, and then just the number of shows that run down there.
Mm.
These guys invested all of their money into this, they're to put on these huge shows, which I said I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. One of my concerns that I have is what this is teaching us is that a lot of promotions are running without event insurance.
Probably any insurance at all.
I mean, my thing is you've got to, are you looking at this as a business? Are you looking at this as a money-making opportunity, or is this a hobby?
Well, it's your biggest moneymaker of the year, where you're going to make a substantial portion of your yearly income. Wouldn't you get insurance on that? I mean, I have liability insurance. I have disability insurance. If I can't perform my job, my family won't go hungry.
Here's the thing. With my job, I have insurance in case I screw up with a client.
Yeah.
It's like, malpractice insurance, with doctors. Yeah. I'm like, you still would kind of have to look at this and say, okay, we're going to do this, but in case we can't, what would be the, so I don't know what it costs. I mean, blunt, but going forward, event insurance might be something that more promoters want to look into.
Yeah.
I'm just,
that's the big deal. Cause I think indie wrestling has to get somewhere past hand to mouth, or depending on your next show for your income. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I think people would be smart to study business models of people like Southern Honor that have reinvested in their product and got themselves in a good business place, because it's going to be a hard road to hoe if you don't run shows for a while.
Run it like a business, and I get it. I mean, now, full disclosure here, by the way, when we're talking about a place like WrestleCon, at this point, they still wouldn't be able to cash in their event insurance because the event still could happen.
Yeah.
It's going to take basically the city shutting them down probably before they could even get that.
Tampa's getting really, I don't know, where are they going to do this? I mean,
they're getting close.
Florida, but they got cases of that stuff all around here in Georgia.
So we'll see. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into it, because we knew we probably wouldn't. There's not a whole lot of content, but there's a couple things on the Georgia Indie Talk. By the way, before we get in there, this is typically where we insert our sponsor. We did have a sponsor this week. Of course, unfortunately, the show had to be canceled. So we just kind of worked it out with them, between us. But what we wanted to insert here is lots of wrestlers, lots of promotions, that are out there that are going through bad time where they're having to cancel their shows. So what we have decided to do in this spot is we're encouraging something simple. If you have a favorite wrestler, if you have a favorite promotion that you love and you support, check them out, man. Go to their social media formats. Find out where they're selling merch. Find out if they have Patreon pages. If you have promotions that you love, and we've got 100 of them around, right? We know. If they're on a streaming service, subscribe to the streaming service and go watch their product and help them, make a little money while they're closed down and not being able to run. And that's whether it be on IWTV, whether that's on Fight, whatever. Whether they're on ProWrestlingTees.com, we got stuff there, but we're like, dude, while you're there, go find some of your favorite wrestlers and buy some merch. By the way, I said we weren't going to plug anybody's merch. William Huckabee, I legit love that shirt. I'm going to have to get me one.
I would be scared somebody would whip me though, because
that's the problem. Yeah.
I'm whippable at this age and physical condition.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's
Michelle shirt's not bad though.
Huh?
That Diana Michelle shirt's not bad.
Yeah. Go buy both.
Yeah.
But everybody knows, obviously, Ray Fury probably has one of the best merch tables I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Check out his stuff. And we could sit here all day. Danny Jordan, Logan Creed, lots of the guys that we just absolutely. The Jim Nasty Boys have some of the funniest, the best
good stuff. Good stuff.
I mean, you name it. I mean, I had a water bottle with their stuff on it. So, not trying to single out anybody in particular, just saying specifically anybody, like I said, promotions you love, find a streaming service they're on if they are, find a way to support them, put a little jingle in their pocket.
These people entertain us, and they're going through a tough time. So let's do what we can. Do what we can.
And we'll do our best. We're going to try to put out some extra content as well on Patreon at patreon.com/tappedoutpod to get you a little bit of feel in the time.
And if you want, like I said, I'll extend the offer to answer any questions. I don't know I'll have the right answer, but if you want me to talk about something on Patreon, I'll do it. Hell, if you want to do a Q&A session with me online, just for anybody, just let me know and we'll work something out. We gotta help people get through this.
Absolutely. Well, man, let's jump into the indie talk stuff before we get out of here. First thing is we got to talk about the most watched video in Georgia wrestling history.
Over 100,000 views.
Yeah. Insane. If you don't know what we're talking about and you haven't seen the video, then you're clearly not an indie wrestling fan because it's been everywhere.
Hell, I've showed it to everybody at work.
Yeah. And again, Stephen Platinum, friend of the show, full disclosure, had a thing about it.
He did a very good job. I think he did the best job of breaking it down and putting the blame where the blame needed to be.
Oh, yeah, and we're going to follow up with that and have some little conversation about it. Okay, so let me back up because clearly here we got to let everybody, what are we talking about? So Ace and Amy Haven were at New Era Wrestling. It was in Alabama. And there was a little back and forth with a fan, and then with Amy, who's manager, valet, call it what you want. And then of course the fan attacked Amy. I mean, now a lot of people are saying, well, Amy was doing the bring it on motion and she jumped and she basically attacked her.
She's a heel, for Christ's sake. She does that. And everybody said, well, this woman said this and this. I don't know what anybody said. But I've been to a lot of wrestling shows where the manager or the wrestlers provoke the crowd. It's how it works.
What did we joke about? If you saw me and Myron sitting on the front row and you're a good heel, we know what's coming.
You fat bastards. What are you stupid fat guys? I would expect that. That's like something, if you don't do that, I'd be disappointed. Your job is to make me hate you. Your job is to make me angry at you and want to see you get your comeuppance from the baby face. Darth Vader didn't stop force choking people running around. When he came in on Star Wars, that first movie, when he got into that ship, just kicking ass. He wasn't saying, well, don't do that. Don't come after me. He was a heel.
And, a lot of people, we're going to do this kind of in stages to talk about it. For one, we're just going to do the easy one out of the way. No barricade, piss poor security, none.
I didn't see security. I didn't see I watched some of that second video, but I didn't study it the way I did the first one.
Yeah. The thing that we've learned from going to shows is it seems like 80-90% of the time security is like somebody's buddy that got in for free and they slapped a shirt on them.
Yes.
And no one is worried about security. But at least if you had the barricade there and you had some security there, it gives off, like you said, the illusion,
yes,
that you can't do that.
It's like being at a zoo. You see the animals through the cage. You realize that animal's dangerous because there's a cage between you and them.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, that fan's a dumbass. And they got, don't go out and do stuff like that, people. It's funny to go, nah, in the wrestler's face or something like that. But you really think you're going to jump? They're lucky they didn't get their ass torn up and the whole crowd went up to help them. Because there would have been times in the old days where one of the old school wrestlers would have shot on those people and busted their ass. I've heard Ron Fuller stories about riots, but those are, as you pointed out, when I talk about the heat the Ron Fuller shows got, where he talks about riots on his podcast and on his Patreon, the difference between now and then, what was that, Nick?
It's kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
People then thought it was real.
You know this shit is fake, and you're gonna get mad enough to jump up and hit somebody. Bitch, I bet you're going to jail already for something else.
Well, and here's the thing, because somebody was like, well, you don't know what was being said, and you don't know what this person was saying and that person was saying. I said, I know everything I need to know about that fan because they jumped up and started fighting over wrestling.
Yep.
Like, again, off air, we were joking about this, and I said, when you go to a comedy show and you sit across the front row, a lot of times, not all the time, depends on the comedian, by the way, if you sit across the front, he's going to have some fun with you, or she's going to have some fun with you.
That's what's expected.
It just happens. Would you jump up on the stage and attack the comedian because he was making fun of you? No. It's a performance art on that level. Yeah. They should inspire and, get a little bit of emotion for you. But really, and to sit there and go, it's we know it's what it is, and you're going to jump up and fight somebody? Keep your butt in the seat. Promoter, put a freaking barricade and have some security. How about that?
You paid for the seat. Why don't you sit in it? We're lucky in Georgia we don't have an active wrestling commission. We have an athletic commission that mainly regulates the combat sports, not, I would call wrestling entertainment sport, how we put that. They are a body that governs it, but they don't actually. In Alabama, they have a professional, like outsourced athletic commission that's probably looking to make a profit on it. And how about if they see that video and say they didn't have barricades, they didn't have security? Look, if your security can't beat me to ringside in a foot race, you need new security. Okay? If your security looks like they're going to have a heart attack trying to do anything, you need new security. It's any other event. You would have professional security. Why wouldn't wrestling? There's money on the line there. People are making stuff. They're making entertainment. They're making money. Wouldn't they have insurance? Wouldn't you have all the things you need? If a wrestling podcast can have an LLC, why can't your performance have it? What if one of those people in that fight had coronavirus? If we keep saying the bad word, and they expose somebody else in that melee to coronavirus. So not only then do you give wrestling a bad black eye for being outlaw bullshit, then you got the CDC involved. Then you got exposure. Then you got liability that person maybe could sue you. And for Christ's sakes, that woman that hit Amy could sue Amy and the promoter and everybody else on top of it, just for the fact she probably got hit, even though she started the fight, and it would go to court. She might not win, but she could definitely sue. And to defend that thing in court, you'd have to have a lawyer, and lawyers cost money. Insure yourself. Rent barricades, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. I mean, it just...
Put up a string.
Well...
You have to. I'm not... But they didn't have a string up.
Yeah. My thing is if you need a good man, call Jimmy Oxendine. He'll rent you the whole package and for one thing, and you'll be good. So having no barricade, you're correct. Is it just downright unexcusable at this point? If you can't afford the barricades, you probably don't need to be running.
Exactly. So
anywho, we're going to end, we're going to end on a kind of a touchy subject right now. Should promotions be running right now? And we're going to, obviously we've already talked about Ring of Honor's not, Impact's not, the big ones are doing it with no fans. Obviously on the indie level, that's kind of probably not kind of what you want to do.
No.
Which I totally get. So the question's simple, Myron. Should they be running right now? Should indie promotions even be running shows at this point?
In Italy, Pharmacies, hospitals, and gas stations and grocery stores are like the only thing open. Today I had to go to the bank because my debit card was hacked and I had to get a new one. That's why I left the house. Bank, financial stability keeps, commerce going. They're needed. Grocery stores are needed even if they don't have any damn toilet paper. Wrestling's entertainment, and I love it. It's my favorite form of entertainment, both live and televised. But we're in a desperate time, and it could get worse. They had 500 people in Italy die the other day from this crap. I don't know anything about infectious diseases.
I don't want to cut you off, but let's be blunt. Friend of the show did a commentary. Stephen Platinum did a commentary that one sentence that every person should learn, a phrase they need to learn how to say. I don't know.
Exactly.
And when you get into the unknown of the I don't knows, you always have to lean to the side of caution versus we'll take our chance.
Yeah. And the CDC says don't do it. The CDC, I don't think the CDC has ever been accused of a government conspiracy. I don't think the CDC has ever done anything to pump the stock markets up. They're scientists. They're right here in Atlanta. Okay? Listen to them. Be reasonable.
Now, here's the thing, Myron. If you're a conspiracy theory person, everything that's ever remotely attached to the government has one to it. So I won't say I've never heard a CDC conspiracy theory, but my thing is simple.
You and those conspiracy theories.
I didn't say I believed them. I just said I know. I like to listen to them about it. I think they're interesting. My answer is simple, guys. Look, it's not your life that you're just taking into the risk. It's you're taking that person that you're going and you're going to be next to. And I jokingly said to somebody, there are crowds that we've seen. I'm like, when they say oh, it's the person at a high risk is somebody with a compromised immune system. And I'm like, there's plenty India crowds I've seen filled with people with compromised immune systems.
Yeah. I
mean, listen, it's hard, and I get it because it's a money thing. Look, in my line of work, I meet people. I have appointments. I go to people's houses for those. It's been a terrible week. 80% of my appointments this week canceled because they don't want somebody coming into their house. I understand. I'm total commission sales. I understand. Trust me. But at the same time, if you're saying don't be in large gatherings and risk spreading it and so forth and so on, I think at this point we just have to take our chance. I mean, and listen to them and say, you know what, right now the best thing to do is just do what they're saying to do.
Think about the liability you could be exposed to for running a show where somebody gets exposed to coronavirus, or have an athlete that gets exposed to coronavirus. Anything could happen right now. Let's do this for safety's sake. Let's just be error on the side of caution.
Yeah.
Not going to hurt anybody to do that, except for the lack of funds. And I understand money is tough. I understand indie wrestlers typically aren't investment bankers. But folks, I'd rather be alive and broke than dead. So I'm not going to go to the shows, and that hurts my feelings. But I'm not going to go.
That's kind of where I wanted to end the show, of course, is we get it. We know there are lots of promotions that are struggling. There's lots of wrestlers that have all these shows canceled, and my heart goes out to them. I really do, because I told you, I sit here and said I can totally sympathize with them because of my situation as well. Income's just going to slow down. I mean, my kids are servers. I mean, this past week alone, they've gotten slashed between hours and what they've made the days they've gotten to work and things like that. I mean, it's just a tough time for everybody. And I mean, it sucks. It really does, which is kind of we were talking about it earlier. If you can, man, your promotion that you love, if they're on a streaming service, watch them. I mean, man, find out if they have a Patreon page, support them, just go sling some some cash that way. We get it; it's tough everywhere, and we're asking you to say, hey, give up your money to help them and so forth. But and then just watch some wrestling, watch us. Try to keep yourself entertained. We'll try to get through this as best we can. It just is what it is right now, and we're with that. It sucks, but we will get through it.
Yep. I got 1,000 projects I want to work on. I've been stressed to the hilt over this coronavirus thing just from work. The work stress of dealing in the healthcare industry with coronavirus has been very stressful. I want to do a lot more stuff, and I understand how people are too scared to do anything. Mm-hmm. But we just got to make it, folks. We ain't got no choice. We just got to make it through this, and let's just stick together and do the best we can.
And who knows? Maybe this will be. Well, if my work keeps going what it is, I'll have more time. Maybe we can do some interviews and people can plug their stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe something like that. I mean, we'll send us a list or something. Maybe we'll figure out a way to plug people's merch stuff and their shows, ways that they can financially support these promotions and stuff. And that's hopefully we can try to help us in any way we can. So that's all we got right now. But unfortunately, as I look at the clock, of course, we are run out of time, and unfortunately, we're not going to have enough time to get Danny Jordan on. Man, I'm sorry, Myron. I know it's week after week. Eventually, we will get her on. Of course, by the time we get her on, she's going to be signed. She's going to be working for a big promotion, and she's going to be big time Danny, and she won't be around to do the show with us. So, but no, we're going to get her on. That's my mission. We will get her on, but unfortunately we are out of time today. So you got anything else before we get out of here, man?
Not a bit.
Well, man, thoughts and prayers go out to everybody before we get out of here. That's first and foremost. So we wanted to get that out there. But man, what's the old saying, man? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.